Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today and welcome to another virtual talk at the iWest platform. I look forward to each Tuesday of the week as I know that there will be another knowledge and experiences that will be shared and imparted to us by the expert in their fields. I am extremely excited to listen to our guest speaker today, who will be talking about authentic leadership. She is one of those women who wears many hats, I would say. She is a qualified medical practitioner, a thought leader, innovator, entrepreneur, and a multi-award winning doctor. She did her MD from AMU and her full-time MBA from Stanford University, in where she also received a PMP certificate in public management and social innovation. She is currently the president, COO of Duluth Medical Technologies. It's a Silicon Valley-based robotic medical device startup. She sits on a multiple corporate startups, non-for-profits, and university boards, including Dana Group of Companies in Dubai, Duluth Medical Technologies Incorporated in USA, NGO Arogya Foundation in India, and the California State University Chico Cybersecurity Advisory Board. She has been recognized by Forbes Middle East as the next generation business leader Arab world in 2017, 2018, and 2019, and Forbes Middle East Top Power Businesswoman 2020. Wow, that's very powerful. Please welcome Dr. Ruchi Dana. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Dana.
Thank you so much, Carla, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a topic that's very, very close to my heart, and especially given the circumstances of COVID-19, I think it's become even more relevant. If you allow, I'd like to share some slides that I'd prepared.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can see the screen, right?
Yeah. Can you see participants? I think we can see all. Yeah.
Okay. So Karela already gave you a brief background about myself. I just wanted to add that I do have a very good background in STEM field as well. And that's why, because it's a women's conference, I would like to encourage more and more women to join the STEM field, because there are very few women in this field, and there's a lack of representation of us women in this field. So I just go through a brief background about my healthcare aspect. So I'm an active investor into healthcare startups. And apart from that, I'm also an inventor of various patents for the use of AI in robotic surgery. And I've presented a lot of papers, published a lot of papers worldwide on in the medical applications. And I'm really excited to be here because in the times of COVID-19, there has been a lot of attention that has gone to various problems that are going on right now. So today is like a perfect storm. So there are problems like working from home. Then there was an issue about Black Lives Matter and various political issues that are going on. At the same time, I would like to take a moment to actually think about the women that have been involved and have been hurt quite a lot because of COVID-19. Because if you think about the crisis, it has been a very tough crisis for almost everybody, but the women were disproportionately hurt during this crisis. And one of the reasons for that is that almost 70% of the healthcare workers, the frontliners, are actually women. And if you talk about even the PPE or the masks that are available for people to use, for the healthcare workers to use, the mask and the PPE doesn't actually fit women. So that's one of the current flaws in the system. So there was a UN report that came out recently, and it said that a lot of women are actually suffering from COVID-19, like the healthcare workers, because of that flaw. And similarly, apart from that, if you look at the other industries like accommodation or the travel industry or the food industry, these industries were predominantly occupied by women. And these were the industries that were being hurt quite a lot because of COVID-19. So a lot of women actually lost their jobs. So that's again a big crisis that we are facing right now because of COVID-19, especially for women. Apart from that, even if you look at like the current crisis situation in terms of like working from home, there's absence of childcare, and the fact that you have to like take care of the entire household, you have to take care of your kids, you have to take care of the online education, it becomes really, really difficult for women to handle all of these issues together. So what we are seeing is that a lot of women are actually opting out of the workforce. Now that's actually very, very shocking, because like if you think about the progress that we have made over the last many, many years, even centuries, the progress we have made for gender equality, I think it's all getting like completely destroyed just because of COVID-19, because there are reasons that that women are like unemployed, they have been hurt quite a lot, and then there's other issues. But apart from this, like the fact that women are actually opting out of job because of the fact that they are unable to handle the pressures of the domestic life and the child care and work at the same time, I think that's something that we should all think about, and we should think about like how to overcome that. So the topic today that's been given to me, it's authentic leadership. I think that's one way in which like we can all try to empower ourselves and the team that we work with, and we can try to come out of this crisis in a good way. So at the moment, like almost everybody is very anxious. There's a lot of like issues going on in terms of like the anxiety level of people, the mental well-being of people. Almost everybody is looking for like some kind of hero to come into their lives. So there's a lot of spotlight on leadership, and there are not enough leaders. So I think like if we are prepared a little bit in terms of our leadership and teamwork skills, I think this is an opportunity to shine. And I would like to like give a little bit of learnings in this aspect, and feel free to reach out with any questions as well. So initially when COVID-19 had struck, there were questions like, okay, I cannot find a quiet corner in my home. Where do I set up my desk? Like, how do I work from home? Like the kids around. So there were like things that were completely different problems than the problems that we are facing today. So today there are new set of problems like, okay, the moment I roll out of bed, I'm into my workplace. How do I balance work and life? How can I inspire my team, because like everybody's working remotely, so how do I make sure that people are understanding what I'm saying? How do I make sure that I get the kind of buy-in that I require from the team? How can how can I be creative? How can we improve the teamwork in the teams? So I think these are concerns that have come across, and there's a need for a leader to come across and try to address all of these concerns. Similarly, like because of a lot of anxiety around jobs and job insecurity, job losses, people are also thinking about, is it time to change careers? Is it time to retire or just work out, like walk out of the workforce? Do I even trust my leadership team? Like what's going on? And also people have got a lot of time to think and reflect upon their things. So they're also like very much stressed out about like what would be the new normal, and am I well equipped to work as a leader in the near future? So I think like these are questions that almost every one of us has, and it's really important to actually develop our skill sets during this time of crisis, because we do have like at least a much better discipline than the previous times, because you don't have to commute to work. You get like it's like almost every day, like the routine is set. You can have like a lot more discipline into your life. So I think like if there's an opportunity to actually upskill yourselves in terms of like whatever soft skills or hard skills you're looking for, and I would like to like share just some of the learnings on leadership. So now is the time to show to the world what you're made of. And if you talk about like women and the audience of this workshop, it's mainly like women entrepreneurs. So the life of a woman entrepreneur is almost like the life of a startup founder. If you talk about like the moment you start your business, you're really excited and you have a lot of energy. You're talking about it all the time to everybody that you meet. And then once you launch your product or once you launch the business, almost always you hit some sort of roadblocks, and you don't get the product market fit, and you have to like it's almost like letting down your peers and your friends and all. So, and this is an ongoing process this keeps on happening in an entrepreneur's life. So I think like it's really important to like not just like be able to withstand all of these things, but also make sure that your team sticks with you during these times. Because if you don't have the team with you, then it's really difficult to like navigate all of these problems on your own. So if you think about like recruiting for your team or like the business that you're working on, you might be aware that it's very difficult to actually get the very high paid people to work for you, because like it's not like a corporate job where you can pay like a very good salary. So it comes down to mainly about like the culture of your company and how good you gel with people, how good you're able to relate to people, and that's what makes people stick to your company. Because otherwise, like they're very good high paying jobs out there where like people would rather go. So if you're giving out some of your equity of your startup or your company to people, that's good enough. But even if that's not the case, but if you have a very good culture, you make work more like fun, and you stand up for what you believe in, I think like people would stick to you and like they would be there for a long time. Because what happens in a business is like the time it takes to train a person, it's so much. It takes almost 6 months to train a person, and then you see him or her leave after 2 years. I think like that's something that actually pulls everything down. So when we talk about human leadership, you should definitely know that you should know yourself and be very true to yourself. Like what is it that you're trying to do, and why is it that you're trying to do it? And apart from that, you should also know your entire team. So you should create an environment for employee intimacy. You should create an environment where their people are much more comfortable even in making mistakes. So they can actually think that it's a very safe environment for them to live and to grow and to make mistakes and to grow even more, because everybody is looking for growth in their like in their careers, in their jobs. So if you give them that safe environment, people would be much more ready to work for you and like to believe in the work that you're looking forward to. So here's a short example about Arne Sorensen. He was the head of Marriott Hotels. And when the crisis situation came, like because of COVID-19, the hotel industry was badly hit. And he is a cancer survivor. So he was a cancer patient. And like he said that I really want to communicate to my employees, to my entire team about like that this is something that's there momentarily and it will go away. And this is COVID-19. Nobody like foresaw this crisis situation. So his PR company and his managers all told him that it's not a good time to actually come in front of the employees right now, because he's already like a cancer patient. He doesn't really look very positive when you have a first look at him. So that would make people even more depressed and things like that. But he said, no, I really want to communicate to my team. And that's something that he stood for. And here's a picture of him speaking to his entire team. And he was communicating with transparency. He was communicating with the team again and again on a weekly basis. And he communicated with a lot of candor. So this is when you see a person like that, like standing in front of you on a Zoom call or on a video call, you can try to understand that he's somebody that believes in you, and that's the reason he's taking so much pain to actually show up for all of these situations, while he could easily have had his subordinate like communicate the whatever things that he had to say over an email or something. So here you can see like a cancer survivor actually speaking to the entire staff of Marriott Hotel just because he believed in the power of communication. This is true leadership. This is a totally authentic leadership. So leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of the people in your charge. So you should actually empower the people. You should take care of them, and they should have like they should get a sense of belonging towards you, and that's what makes leaders leaders. And this is Simon Sinek is actually a very well-known thought leader. He also wrote a very good book about finding your why. I would like you to read it when you get time. So Finding Your Why is a book about like finding your purpose and your passion for what you actually believe in. If you find your why, then you're able to like put in a lot of hard work to actually succeed in that aspect. But finding your why is very, very important. So when we talk about like the 3 P's of human leadership, there's performance, persona, and passion. So passion is the why, the finding your why part. Performance is like how good the business would perform. What are you delivering to the world? You can start off with defining your goals and then being clear that everybody is sure about like what is it that they have to achieve, like what are the KPIs that the company has set, and be really frequent in your communication with your team. This is about performance. Then you talk about passion. So passion is finding your why. It's what attracts others towards your entire mission and your vision. So this is the book by Simon Sinek. It's a very good book. Then I'll give you an example of passion later on in the slides as well. So in the third P is persona. Persona is not about the kind of clothes you wear or your fashion sense or anything. It's more about like how you present yourself when any situation comes across. Let it be a crisis situation, a happy situation. So people would know that you would be consistent in your efforts. So like, for example, like if you create a persona that you'll be available for a call, even let it be like 12 a.m. in the night when there's a crisis situation, you'd be ready for a call. I think that's something about your persona, and like people would love to interact with you freely, and they would know like tomorrow if anything comes across, any crisis situation comes, they can like reach out to you. You'd be there, you'd be available for them no matter what. So that's your persona, that's your consistency, and that's how like you create your image as a leader. Because like if you're not consistent, if you don't like own up to the and are not accountable to the things that you do, then it really makes people lose the trust in a leader. So leadership can be of different types. It can be leadership by example, or leadership by like various other ways as well. So it depends on like how you develop as a leader and what are things that are important to you. For me, at least, I believe in leadership by example. So, and the reason for that is I can give you a short story about what happened when I was a kid. I was in school, and like I just remember very well this one day when I was walking down the gallery of the school, and there was a principal of the school walking maybe like 7, 8 steps in front of me, and there were many people walking in the same gallery. But what happened was like there was a piece of trash, like a piece of crumbled paper on the floor, and everybody was seeing it, and nobody really cared to like pick it up or do anything about it. But the principal herself, she got down and she picked up the piece of paper and went to the dustbin and threw it off. So like the entire school was watching this because this was during lunchtime. So like the students, the teachers, the office boys, everybody watched this instance. And I think that instance created a lot of respect for the principal, at least in my eyes. And I'm sure that was the same thing with all the people that saw that instance, because like if she can do it as a principal, then like I think like that's leadership by example. You would definitely want to do it the next time such a circumstance comes across. So how you show up your persona, it's even more important during tough times, because at this time, like everybody is so insecure about various situations. You don't know what's happening, what's going to happen in the next, like even like a day or two. So like at these times, it's a leader would be somebody who would actually give a lot of hope to people. So there's a saying by Napoleon which said that leaders are just dealers in hope. So like leadership is all about like giving hope to people and standing up for that. So to dial up your persona, like there are some tips. The first one is actually listen, and listen like very attentively and give people what they need, and try to relate to people at a very, very personal level. Like ask about the family, their kids, and all of these questions, because I think that's very, very important if you really want to relate to a person on a deeper level. And that shows that you actually care about the people. The second main step is communicate clearly, and not just clearly, but simply and frequently, because it's very important that you communicate the same, even if it's the same thing, you just communicate it again and again. There's nothing known as like over communication, because you never know, especially on Zoom calls, you never know how much the other person is actually absorbing on the other side. So like it's really important to communicate frequently and clearly, and even follow up with the communication, that did they actually understand what you're trying to say. And the third important thing is to choose candor over charisma, because candor and authentic leadership, these are things that are really, really important, and that's what you'd be remembered for later on, not the kind of shoes or the dress that you wore to a particular thing. So here's a framework of delivering a message with candor. First of all, you assess the situation. What is the message that you want to give, and what's your desired outcome for that? The second thing would be to be very timely. Have the conversation in real time if possible. If not, then you can actually have a Zoom call or anything. But like it's much, much better to have it like face to face over a video call instead of communicating over email or anything like that. And third thing is like be specific, be direct, have empathy, but be clear on why and what. So even if you want to like give a particular negative feedback to a person, it's important to actually show some empathy and give the negative feedback one-on-one and be clear on why did you give this and what can the person do to actually improve himself. Mm-hmm. And the fourth thing is to follow up, to check back to ensure whether the person understood what you were saying. And you can also ask for like feedback from the person himself. So these were the 3 P's of human leadership. Performance, what do you and your team deliver to the world? Is everybody clear on their rules, on their roles? Persona, are you acting the way you'd like to be described later on? Passion, why do you do what do you do and what drives you? So now let's talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is very important. We have heard about IQ all of our lives, but I think this is a time when everybody is actually looking for EQ, not IQ. So emotional intelligence is something that actually defines effective and authentic leaders. So if you talk about emotional leadership, it's about like how you're able to relate to people, how you're able to set a tone in a company, in a culture, so that people are able to understand what's going on. So there's a similar theory called the unwritten ground rules. So by the Australian consultant Steve Simpson. So unwritten ground rules is something that everybody knows in the company, but it's not documented anywhere in the vision statement or the mission statement or anywhere. So there's a very good example of this. There was a like car manufacturer in Europe, and a consultant actually went to meet the CEO of the car manufacturer in Europe. And when he was coming out of the meeting and like coming out of the office block to the garden to the main door, he saw that there was a like gardener and he was measuring like the amount of grass that he has to cut, the amount of bushes that he has to cut. So like with a measuring tape. So that showed him that like that's something that the company strives for, like excellence in execution or like like really perfection in what they do. So that was the unwritten ground rule. Even the gardener knew that this is something that the company stands for. So they would not like mess up with any of the gardening, or even if you look at the interiors of the company office, everything would be really proper and in a really well presented manner, because that's what the company stood for. A similar example for this is like the example of JFK. So JFK actually had this dream of putting a man on the moon. And one day he went to NASA and he met a janitor there. And the janitor was just like sweeping the floor, and he was like, just their paths just crossed. So JFK asked him, like, what are you doing here? And the janitor replied, I'm trying to put a man on the moon. So if you see, like, even the janitor knew that this is what the company was working for. This is what NASA's mission was. This is what NASA's vision was. Everybody knew from the top to the bottom that this is what they are working for, and they have a sense of belonging towards that vision. I think that's really important to create that sense of belonging and to create that emotional appeal with people. So this was an example of JFK when he met people at NASA, and everybody knew from the top to the bottom that this is what they were working on, and that's why it was a success. Similarly, for other companies, these are like things that are not written on any of the company's documentation, but if you talk to the employees or to talk to the team of the company, you can see that like this is what the company is known for. For example, Google. Everybody at Google would be super humble, very caring, zero pride involved, truly lovely and inspiring people in the leadership roles. And these are things like this is not documented on any of the papers, but it's just the company culture, and that's what these companies stand for. And if you're like even looking to recruit people, or if the team there is actually looking to refer people to the team, to the leadership team, this is what they would look for. These are the characteristics of the people that work there. So these are the 5 qualities of human leadership in organizations. They stand for something that inspires everybody. So like everybody feels a sense of belonging, that this is what they have to do. Individuals know they can make an impact no matter the level of their job. So even the janitor knew that he was working on making his efforts to put a man on the moon. Leadership is present, involved, and engaged. They're like communicating every day, all the time, following up, because that's really important. Because like in times of crisis specifically, like you never know what the other person is going through, what are the things that's going through his mind as well, because there's so many tensions in everyday life, like maybe the spouse's job is at loss, or things like that. So you should be present, involved, and engaged, and communicate a lot with the team. Employee and customer intimacy are practiced, so not just teamwork in within your company, but also like with the customers. Try to get feedback from the customers themselves, and even they can give you like very very good crucial feedback to work towards even the company culture. People development is core value, because you cannot rely on giving like very high salaries. So like having uh, people develop themselves and grow themselves, that's one of the incentives that people would want to join your company. So the only thing leaders have in common is that they have a lot of followers. So this is a very good example of Sheryl Sandberg. So somebody, like one of her subordinates actually was giving a presentation, and she was very happy with the presentation. And just after the presentation, she walked up to Sheryl and said, "Oh, how was my presentation?" And Sheryl said, like she gave a very negative feedback to her face right then and there. And the lady that got the feedback, she was like a bit disappointed at that moment. But Cheryl has this thing that this is what, like if you need to say it, you just say it then and there. It should be like in person. There should not be other people around, but you should give the correct feedback. You should not be diplomatic in these things, because that's the question of actually developing the other person. Because if you like just give positive feedback, and while internally you know that there were things that were missing in the presentation, that's not helpful to either your company, or the person that made the presentation. So it's important to be very direct, but so here's a quote by her, that clear is kind in such cases, unclear is unkind. If she would have just like left the person in between, then it would have been unkind, because like even though she would have been good for her in that moment, but like over the long period, she didn't help her or the company, because the presentation wasn't actually very good. So leaders don't create followers, they create even more leaders. So these are some 5 daily human leadership behaviors. I can even give you a slide of this. So these are ways in which you can actually relate to people, try to put these behaviors into your day-to-day life every day. For example, check in with your people, not just on their work, but on their lives as well. So you can make a rule that you should call or email at least one of your team members on a human basis once a day. So if you have like things like this scheduled out in your calendar, then it becomes very easy. And at the end of like the year or the quarter, you'll see that you have made a huge, huge difference in other people's lives. Similarly, the second point is praise someone or say thank you genuinely. So be specific in their action, in how their action impacted you or those around you. If you like, I think this is something that's so much missing in our lives these days. Everybody is looking for a little bit of praise or thanks, and like people just don't care to actually say that. And the other thing is seek out criticism. Try to get feedback from people. Ask someone to tell me something I don't want to hear, or have a stop conversation. Thank them for their honest input, because it's really important to get that negative feedback so that you can refine yourself as a leader on your day-to-day life. Because a lot of cultures differ in a very very big way. So like what might work out in one culture might not work out in another culture. For example, in Dubai you have like so many people from different nationalities all over, so the kind of words that you say, somebody would perceive it in a completely different way, and the other person would perceive it in a different way. So it's important to get feedback from others. That's how you'll be able to refine yourself as a better leader. Practice gratitude and celebrate wins. You should meditate, journal. This all depends on your personal life, actually. show you care by delivering honest, empathetic input. So if you like don't like somebody's presentation or something, it's really important that you give that feedback to him or her in a one-to-one manner, because it's only like once you give this feedback that the other person would be able to improve, and he'd be able to like thank you later on. So if you treat an individual as he or she is, he will remain how he is. But if you treat him as if he were what you ought to be or could be, then he will become what he ought to be or could be. So this is all about like training people and making them grow and having this growth mindset, not just for yourself, but for your entire team. Because if you like actually like trust people, give them the power, empower them, then you'll be surprised at how much better they can perform. So this is like some more keys to be how to be more productive. So instead of asking like simple yes or no questions, just ask for opportunities and ask for reasons. Instead, like this is just like how you can change the language to be much more effective in your day-to-day life. Stay away from I need you to do this. Instead say I trust you to handle this. Will you take care of it? I have feedback is something that might sound negative to people. So instead of that, you can try to reframe the words about like, here's my reaction to this. Here's what it worked for me and where it didn't. Good job is a great opening to a productive conversation. So you say good job, and then you can say like some little bit of positive feedback, and then get to the point about like what you actually want to be improved in that presentation. End all the coaching conversations by giving the person an opportunity to give you feedback. So what would you like me to start doing or stop doing? Because that's really important, because apart from like training your people, making them grow and all, you also have to grow on a day-to-day basis, and it's important to get that feedback, because the life of a leader can be very, very lonely. Oftentimes you don't even get time to reflect on how you were. But if you make it a point to have these conversations day in and day out and ask for feedback from any and every one-on-one conversation that you have, I think like everybody has a lot of scope to improve, and we can do that. So human leadership requires you to take on the behavior of a good coach. It's not about having all the answers. It's about building empathy and trust with your actions. So like there might be situations, for example, in COVID-19, nobody actually had the right answers, but like it was about like, it's all about having the right persona, like showing up for people, even if you don't have answers, but like being there for them. I think that's what was very important. So that's why that I gave you that Marriott example in the beginning. So there are a number of quotes on this. I would like to stress on things like if even if somebody is making mistakes, that actually shows that somebody is actually working on something. Because if there are no mistakes, or like there might be like hardly anything that would be going on that person's desk. So if you're making mistakes, it means you're out there doing something. That's authenticity. That's candor. This is a very good book about emotional intelligence, and like if you get time, you should actually get to read it. So emotional intelligence is a person's ability to identify emotions in both themselves and others, to recognize the powerful effects of those emotions, and to use that information to inform and guide behavior. It's about like how present you are, how you are able to relate to other people, and like once you're able to do that, you can actually get the buy-in of your team to work towards the things that you want. So these are the main characteristics of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So these are things that as women, we're very much strong on. So it's not very difficult for us to portray these skills, but it's a little bit difficult for men to actually even be aware of these skills. So I'll just like try to wrap up with a couple of examples about leaders who have done things with emotional intelligence. So Indra Nooyi is a very well-known figure. She was the CEO of PepsiCo. She does one thing, that she writes more than 400 letters to the parents of her senior executive team every year. And she just writes these letters with her own hand, and writes it in a very personal way, that thanks for bringing up such amazing kids and all of that. And that's one of the reasons that she got a very good approval rating for her for her ability to relate to other people. Similarly, if you talk about Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google, so he would actually, for every product strategy meeting, he would actually try to get the feedback from the team and try to mold the feedback into such a way that they would be able to understand what's the next strategy going forward. So everybody would feel very, very included in all the decision makings of Google. That's how Google grew up to be such a successful company. So Jeff Weiner from LinkedIn, he had a similar thing. He practiced a lot of Ubuntu as well. And it's I am because we are. A lot of people are actually focusing on that. So if the audience would like to mention just a few leaders that you believe have a strong emotional quotient, please do that. You can unmute yourself or type it on the chat as well. I'll just try to wrap up with one more good tool. So this is a tool known as 6-hat thinking. And it's especially useful in these days of COVID-19 and these days of Zoom calls, because when you come across a problem, it's really important to address it from all angles. So if you're on a Zoom call or if you're in a team meeting, you can actually assign people different things. So like one person would wear a hat of process, one person would wear a hat of creativity. So he'd think about like all the loopholes in that problem from that angle. One person would wear a hat of facts, of benefits, feelings, cautions. So these are 6 hats that 6 people can wear, or like multiple people can wear. And that's how you're able to like find up the root cause of any problem and think about a solution in a very effective way. So it's also important to turn questions into story opportunities to build empathy, because if you rely on like monosyllable question and answers, then it doesn't really make you connect to anybody. So instead of saying like, why did you do that? You should say, tell me more about how you made the decision. Or were you frustrated by this? Tell me more about how you felt after that meeting or that conversation. So this completely changes the language. You're essentially asking the same thing, but you're rephrasing the words in a way that makes the person elaborate their entire story in front of you. So in summary, it's mainly about like asking for feedback, looking for new perspectives, new angles to the problem, and seek to understand and ask better questions. This is like what, these are some of the tools that could actually help you in becoming a much more authentic leader. With this, I would like to end this presentation. I hope it was helpful. And please feel free to reach out at any point of time. I'll just stop sharing my screen. And please do share like examples of people who you feel are very good leaders. I would love to include them in my next presentation as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dana. Is there anyone who wants to ask question to Dr. Dana? I actually put the contact details of Dr. Dana in the screen, so you will be able to reach her on those. We have one guest from Poland, one guest from Spain, and one from Italy. So is there anyone who wants to ask question, please?
So I think Jennifer had a question. Dr. Dana, how do you assess leaders to becoming better leaders? So I think it's all about like being authentic to yourself and then being authentic to the people around you. It's all about like having that persona of and like that candor so that people are able to relate to you and you have a very authentic way of leadership. I personally am really not involved in any of the coaching or leadership business. It's just like a topic that's very close to my heart, so I just presented today.
Yeah. Is there anyone else wants to ask a question?
So Rowena is asking, do you believe leaders are born or made? So I would say like it's a skill that can be learned. Definitely, like there are genes that could help out some people in a certain way, but I think like it's all about also putting in the hard work, understanding all of the cultural aspects of things, and actually learning to become a better leader. Because like you can be born with certain gifted genes and all of that, but if you don't like learn the right kind of attitude, it really doesn't serve much of a purpose. So I think like we should believe that like it's something that can be definitely learned and practiced.
There's another question here. So when people are having very strong points of views about what leadership is, how do you help them to change their way of thinking?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's all about like making them do the talking more and more. So like framing the questions in a way that would allow them to elaborate more on like their leadership style or why they believe that this is what they believe in leadership. Because like if you allow the other person to open up and to say more and more, then that actually develops some sort of empathy with you as well, and then you can able to like try to influence and try to make him or her understand that this is something that's incorrect, or this is something that could use a little bit of feedback. I think the first step for anything like that would be like to be able to open up with such people and like asking the right questions so that they're able to like feel that it's a very safe environment to open up and get feedback and actually be receptive about the feedback that you have.
You mean about having your own coach, personal coach, or a mentor?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to actually go about it. If like having a life coach or personal mentor or even like a personal board, I actually believe a lot in having personal boards, because like if you're stuck with like maybe quarterly goals or thinking about like having a 5-year plan and a yearly plan and a quarterly plan, but if you don't have anybody to actually talk to about that plan, then it doesn't really work out much, because you tend to like skip the milestones and think, okay, let's push it to the next quarter, let's push it to the next quarter. But if you have somebody who can actually hold you accountable, that helps quite a lot. So it could be a life coach, a mentor, maybe a personal board of just like your friends and family who are very close to you. So you can just announce your goals and whatever it is that you want to achieve, and they would actually hold you accountable for that. Because otherwise it becomes very, very difficult. As human beings, it's our nature to just procrastinate a lot of things, and everybody's life is so busy. But like if you have this sort of accountability partner, that helps quite a lot. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
There's another one. How do you see the difference between the roles of a coach and a mentor?
Yeah, I think what a mentor does is like he or she never gives you any answers. It's all about like asking the right sort of questions, and try to discover yourself in the entire process. So like a mentor would never ask you to like follow a certain path or think about like changing your decisions in a certain path. But the mentor would definitely ask a lot of questions, a lot of probing questions about why do you want to do this and why do you want to do it now, or like why is it that you're not pursuing the other thing that you had put your mind to last time. So I think these are important questions to answer, but like the role of a mentor would be more about like just trying to get to know yourself in a much better way. And I think like that's really, really important, because our everyday lives get so busy that we don't get time to reflect on our lives, and in such times like having a coach or a mentor actually helps quite a lot. The coach would be having like much more skills and a lot of tools to actually help you out. So like a life coach could actually help you out in many ways in your personal life, and maybe like having a lot more discipline in your life. So a coach does much more hand holding than what a mentor would do. A mentor is like more about like asking about the vision, or what is it that you want to do, and why is it do you want to do that. That's my understanding of a coach and a mentor.
Okay. Is there anyone wants to ask? Valerie said, thank you very much, Dr. Dana. It was a very informative talk.
Yeah, I think like it's a very tough time that everybody is going through, especially from the female community. So like having some sort of themes that would appeal to a lot of person, I think that's one way to go about it. Like uh, maybe people are struggling with jobs. So like having that theme and try to address that, and like have like even like open office hours or something for people who, because a lot of people are in need for support as well at the moment. And it might not be like monetary support or job support. It might just be like wanting to talk to somebody on a personal level, because in these days of COVID-19, you never know what's going on at one person's home. Even like the chances of domestic violence and all of that is also increasing quite a lot, because there's a lot of frustration that's happening in everybody's lives. So like having a platform like that where everybody can like sort of share their thoughts, having like some sort of networking opportunities, I think that would be a good way to start.
There's another thing here from Jennifer. She said, in my personal experience as a mentor, I believe that asking the questions that are open up the doors to empower people to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, that's really important. That's exactly the role of a mentor, because like if we don't have such mentors in our lives, then we might be like so busy in our day-to-day lives pursuing a path, but you never know like how much more potential you have. So having such mentors who would question like the decisions that you made, or like the long-term decisions that you want to make, like that would actually bring about the best version of yourself. I think that's a very important point.
I actually don't want to ask a question because it was quite insightful. And just last week, we were in a book launch about jigsaw effect of leadership. And here with reading the book, it was like such a coincidence. I just finished the book yesterday. And today we spoke about the emotional quality of the, people in the team, and as a leader, how to get the feelings and feel them. So it was very insightful for me, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Dr. Dana. Hi, Gardella. Hi, everyone. Yeah, same here. I found the talk very, very interesting. It kept me glued and just listening to you, Dr. Dana. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, Gardella, for the invitation. But yeah, I don't have questions anymore. I'm quite happy with what I've heard from Dr. Dana. It's very comprehensive. Congratulations.
Thank you, Rowena.
I'd like to say something there, Cardella.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you doing, Dr. Dana? An amazing presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Cardella, the work that you do to inspire all of us is truly remarkable. And I think you need a pat on your back for sure. And as far as Dr. Dana goes, a lot of insightful information. Thank you very much for sharing that, because it's always nice to have the perspectives of professionals as yourself to be able to add to my repertoire of how it is that I do mentoring. And I think it is absolutely phenomenal that you are sharing this amazing insight. So thank you so much, and always being there for all of us, Cardella. I truly appreciate you and the work that you do. I just wanted to put it out there because you're so busy making everyone else listen and hear and compliment everyone. But I think it's time that you received a compliment for your awesome work. So thank you very much. I'm totally grateful.
Thanks, Jennifer. Means a lot.
Jennifer, you have been a translator of all of our feelings. And I was just about to mention the same point when we were talking about the community, that you just asked what more you can do. I think that you are doing the utmost you can do. And I don't hesitate to say that during COVID, even with the inspiration of Cardella, I now even have a new career achievement in my life. I'm still young, 40 is still yet to begin. But with all these inspirational talks and listenings, I found a path that matches me, and I followed it. And now I'm ready for the good days in quite a new how do you say, feeling and the meaning of life. So about the community side, I think that you are doing great. And I don't know how we can love you more. I don't know. You don't think. Thank you, Jennifer, again. Thank you, Dr.
Good one.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%. Hats off to you, Cardella.
Thank you, Rowena. All right. So thank you for all your compliments, and thank you, Dr. Dana, for speaking to IWAS platform today. I really appreciate it, because every single week I would like to impart knowledge, not from me because I'm not really a speaker, but yeah, so I am inspired by those people who can mentor, coach, and teach the others as well. And I think that's my passion. And Jennifer, we have to talk.
There's something that I'd like to say here, because when people usually are doing things out of the passion of where they are and how they are, they usually tend to forget how amazing they are. And I think most of the time, my darling, you keep forgetting how awesome you are. So we're all here to cheer you on. And if there's anything that I could do to help everyone else, let's talk and let's get rolling.
Thank you. Definitely. All right, then. So I think I'm keeping Dr. Dana so much time in here. I would just end up the meeting. And thank you again so much, Dr. Dana. And thank you all for participating today. Hope to see you soon and next week.
Thank you so much, Cardella. Thank you so much. And I agree to everything that Jennifer just said. I think you're really awesome and you're doing a really good job. I remember the first time I met you, and I remember the words very well, that like there's so much effort that a lot of women put into networking and all these days, and because of COVID-19 everything has just come down. So I think you're doing a very good job of even like taking this entire thing virtually. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye everyone.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.